this woman begged detectives to look into the mysterious disappearance of her sister, Danielle.
She's not gonna leave her kids if it's not adding up.
But on a seemingly ordinary day, she vanished. Her car was found abandoned on a desolate road. Blood was smeared across.
The guy in the hoodie, he popped the trunk just because he's seen all his blood here.
A chilling sign that something had gone horribly wrong.
I was afraid of that, but I still had high hopes.
Detectives dug deep, uncovering dark secrets that cast a shadow over Danielle's life. Multiple suspects emerged, each with motives buried in lies and betrayal.
You come up here to ask questions, and now you want to interrogate me.
I'm not interrogating her.
I don't want to have no problems right now, so here, just take my number and stuff.
Why are you being...
Because I'm pissed off with the situation.
Well, how are you pissed off at me?
There was no leads. There was no evidence.
Yet, with every lead that faded, it seemed her killer would remain free until a woman stepped forward with a revelation.
And he's like, throw these out, and I was like, what?
On that fateful day of March 17th, 2016, 29-year-old Danielle Pruett dropped her 3 children off at her mother, Charlene's house. She was supposed to pick the children up later for baseball practice, but when she failed to return, the family's concern grew rapidly into fear. Danielle's twin sister, Nikki Garnett, who had a special bond with her, was the first to notice that something was wrong. She frantically called Danielle multiple times, but all her calls went unanswered. It was completely uncharacteristic of Danielle to be unreachable, especially regarding her children, and Nikki's worry intensified with each unanswered ring. As the tension mounted, Charlene, Nikki, and Danielle's children waited anxiously for any update. The unsettling silence made the situation feel more serious by the minute, prompting Charlene to finally call 911.
My daughter is missing, and I was maybe if you could have a wreck or what was going on. We can't find her, and kids are having a fit. Okay, honey, I'm trying to find Danielle Pruett. Danielle? Yes, ma'am. Okay, do you know what she was wearing? No, ma'am, I don't. I haven't seen her today. Okay, and when was the last time you saw her? I think she left the house somewhere around 3, maybe 3:30. And you didn't actually see her? No, ma'am. Okay, but her children did? Yeah. I'm just a little bit nervous still. They supposed to be at ball practice, and they can't find their mom.
When the detective arrived, Charlene and Nikki shared their deep concerns, emphasizing how reliable Danielle had always been, further deepening the mystery of her sudden disappearance.
So, what's she been doing today? I mean, have y'all seen her at all?
I've not seen her at all. I had to work. I was supposed to be off. I was supposed to be off work today.
Okay.
My boss called me in and asked me could I work, and I needed the money. So I called my sister and I asked. Well, she wasn't answering her phone, so I kept calling. Called Chris. Chris said she was asleep.
So, man.
So I told him that I needed him to get her up. It was almost 2 o'clock. I was mad that she was asleep. I said she's asleep. So he went and woke her up, and I said, Danny.
But the case took a turn when Charlene and Nikki revealed a disturbing detail.
I guess she got up then, and Savannah, a girl who lives with my sister, who's staying with my sister, whatever, said she heard Danny on the phone, and Danny said, meet me on the next street over.
Before the authorities were involved, they had contacted Savannah, a friend who had been staying with Danielle at her home. Savannah had overheard a conversation between Danielle and someone on the phone, and what she picked up from the conversation made everyone even more uneasy. According to Savannah, Danielle had arranged to meet someone on the next street over. The conversation was brief, but Savannah clearly remembered Danielle leaving the house shortly afterward. Since then, no one had seen or heard from her. Nikki's distress was palpable, and Charlene, too, feared the worst.
I know my sister.
Identical twins.
I've been her sister for 29 years. I've never been closer to anybody but her. She's not gonna leave her kids if it's not adding up.
We'll go over here to the house and I'll talk to them.
Can you please? I'll probably be bugging y'all, and I don't mean to, but
Y'all can bug us.
this is my twin sister, man, my daughter.
I'll go over there and see if they know anything else. I'll give you a call back, all right?
All right, thanks.
The officer, after hearing from both Charlene and Nikki, headed to Danielle's home, where she lived with her ex-partner Chris and their friend Savannah.
I hate to say it, that they're not missing, that they're just not answering their phone, or their phone's dead, or they just lost their phone.
At this point, the mystery of Danielle's disappearance had only deepened. The family, now more concerned than ever, could only wait and hope for some clue that would bring their loved one home. When the officer visited Danielle's residence, Chris, her ex-partner, was present but was uncooperative. His evasive behavior, coupled with his reluctance to let officers inside the property, raised suspicions. He claimed Danielle had left around 3 p.m. and had not returned.
Hey, man. Can we come in for a minute? I'll holler at you. Where's the chick at? Savannah?
Not here. I ain't no boyfriend left.
Okay. We're trying to find Danny. Do you have any idea?
She left at 3 o'clock and I ain't seen her since.
3 o'clock? Where'd she go to? You have any idea?
Don't have no clue.
Chris's frustration and unhelpful attitude during questioning prompted the officer to check for outstanding warrants, but this also yielded no actionable information.
Did you have an ID on you, man?
What do you need my ID for?
Run you to see if you got any warrants on you, man.
Don't come up here to ask questions and now you want to interrogate me.
I'm not interrogating you. Can you get it out for me?
Can you not just call that in?
Can you get it out
I'm
for
already
me?
aggravated enough because I've been trying to find her. I don't want to have no problems right now, so here, just take my number and stuff.
Why are you being an ass?
Because I'm pissed off at what the situation is.
Well, how you pissed off at me? I'm trying to find her. Baby, ID will be right back, alright? What do they say?
The following day, officers returned with a search warrant. A thorough search of the property revealed no evidence of Danielle or of any foul play, but Chris and Savannah were both notably absent.
Clear. Upstairs.
When we got the warrant on the house and we responded, the SWAT team, which I was a part of at that point, went inside the house and cleared it, just hoping to find Danny or Savannah or any other evidence that might lead to finding Miss Pruett at that time.
The investigation took a turn when Danielle's phone was found by a passerby near a bridge. The man explained that he'd discovered the damaged phone and answered calls in an attempt to return it to its rightful owner. This development added urgency to the search, but did not provide immediate answers about Danielle's whereabouts. Days passed in a fog of frustration, and just when it seemed like they were running out of leads, Chris, Danielle's ex-partner and the person she'd been living with at the time of her disappearance, contacted the family. He claimed to have found Danielle's car, but the discovery wasn't as simple as it seemed. He told them the vehicle had been located at an auto body shop in Grant Park. But something didn't sit right with the officer. He'd driven past that shop only hours before and had not noticed any sign of Danielle's car. What the investigators found at the shop was enough to send chills down their spines.
The guy in the hoodie, he popped the trunk just because he seen all his blood here. Okay.
The car was indeed present, but it wasn't in the condition they expected. Blood was smeared across the back bumper, confirming their worst fears. Something violent had likely taken place. In the midst of a chaotic scene, with Danielle's family anxiously waiting for news, the officers painstakingly processed the car. But despite their careful search, Danielle was nowhere to be found. There was absolutely no sign of her or any trace of what had happened to her. Once a symbol of hope, the car now felt like a mocking reminder of their failed efforts and the terrifying unknown. And for Danielle's family, this discovery was both a sign that something terrible had occurred and a devastating clue that they might never see her again. As the news of Danielle's car being discovered spread, more family members and friends gathered at the scene, each with their theories and concerns. Among them was Savannah, Danielle's friend and roommate. Her presence quickly caught the police's attention, and they were eager to speak with her, as she had witnessed the events leading up to Danielle's disappearance, unlike anyone else. Savannah, visibly shaken, began recounting her side of the story. However, the details Savannah provided shifted the investigation in an entirely different direction.
The night before she came in, she was like, she was like, I have $400 now, so she has to pay $600. So I'm thinking that basically, I guess Cleve, she got 3 kids, Cleve, baseball, basketball. I don't know, she got $400 in my pocket.
Savannah revealed that Danielle had been selling drugs in order to support her children and make a living.
I could give two. She's sitting on 5 pounds of heroin right now. We need to make sure she's okay.
She's not a bad person. She don't go to no clubs. She don't argue with nobody.
All I'm interested in right now is finding her.
But it's so crazy because from that street to here, like, what happened? I heard about the back of the car.
Savannah's revelations painted a picture of a woman under tremendous pressure, trying to make ends meet in dangerous ways.
Can I also add something? Even after, she came up missing, we rode this street, and I never seen her car right there.
Her suspicions about the car's discovery also raised more questions, leading the police to believe that Chris may have been involved somehow, though they didn't have any direct evidence. The detective began to hint at the possibility that Chris might have been hiding something regarding the discovery of the car.
It was actually Chris who found the car. It flew up a red flag to me because of the earlier dealings I had with him at her house. Then also, early in the night, I drove by that same place. I never did see the car. And it made me wonder, could he be involved in this case?
As the investigation unfolded, Savannah's insights not only shed light on Danielle's struggles, but also raised more questions. Who was Danielle meeting that night, and what had happened in the hours before her disappearance? The police now had more leads to follow, but they were still far from the answers they desperately needed. Where was Danielle Pruett? When the police brought Chris in for questioning, the detectives began with the basics first. They questioned Chris about the events leading up to Danielle's disappearance.
You know why we want to talk to you, right? You know why we're talking to you. Or can you tell me about Thursday, which is the day that she went missing?
Her sister called, so I woke her up and put her on speakerphone so they could call.
What happened after that?
She finally woke her up. She made a few phone calls. The last thing she said to me is, I gotta run out for a minute and I'll be back.
Now, did she leave and come back and then go?
She didn't come back to the house. Not one time.
Anybody go with her?
No, but she's back.
Then the questioning shifted to the discovery of Danielle's car the following morning. Chris had been the one to find it, but his story about how it happened raised more suspicion.
And now I'm feeling like this has turned in from cooperation to interrogation, and I'm getting fairly aggravated.
Well, I hate it for you, my friend, because you got a lot of quality issues that I need to talk to you. You're not clearing anything else.
I found the car. I popped the trunk to make sure she wasn't in it.
His evasive behavior and defensive tone heightened suspicions, intensifying the tension in the room for investigators.
Seen blood on the back of it.
I'm not saying anything bad about that, but you come up with the attitude, don't come give me attitude. I'm trying to get the answers here that we need to know.
This is so shining on my mind. You don't understand. It's really broke my mind. I can barely function because all I think about is this.
Chris had initially claimed that Danielle had left the house after making a few phone calls and hadn't returned. But the more they probed, the more inconsistencies surfaced, casting a shadow of doubt on his story. Chris's demeanor also began to shift. This behavior, including his not mentioning the key details and appearing agitated, made the detectives increasingly suspicious that Chris was not being forthcoming.
The car automatically turns up not far away from home. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of unanswered questions that we're trying to figure out. I pressed some details that was inconsistency of the investigation. He started getting really agitated and started yelling back towards me. And I explained to him, we have to know of what happened because you may be the last point of contact of us finding her.
With no solid evidence to tie Chris directly to Danielle's disappearance, the detectives reluctantly ended the interview, though they knew their suspicions about him were far from resolved. His behavior, proximity to the car's discovery, and increasingly defensive attitude raised red flags. Yet, without concrete proof, they couldn't pin anything on him. Not yet.
We're still trying to find her, still trying to search for her.
The investigation reached its turning point when officers, while conducting a meticulous search of a remote rural area, made a heartbreaking discovery that would change everything. As the team scoured the terrain, a sense of dread hung in the air. Then, hidden beneath a blanket,
I can see the head right there. Pick the shortest end up.
There's the foot right there.
Yeah, she got pink toenail polish on. All right, back out. Everybody back out. Yeah. That's her.
I was afraid of that, but I still had high hopes.
Danielle's lifeless body was revealed, confirming their worst fears. The initial examination of the scene told a brutal story. The injuries to her head and face, consistent with blunt force trauma, made it clear that her death had come at the hands of someone who had intended to cause harm.
It was obvious that she had died in a violent way. Her hair was saturated with blood and leaves and sticks from where she was drugged to the scene. Her jaw was askew from being broken, and both of her eyes were blackened. There were numerous lacerations, cuts, scrapes, drag marks. We weren't able to recover any murder weapon, but I could tell that she died from some type of blunt force trauma by the damage to her head, and it was one of the most violent body deaths that I've seen in my career.
This was no accident. It was a brutal, premeditated act.
When the officer came in there and said he found her, I was hopeful. But he said not long after that she didn't make it. And it really felt like he was wrong. It wasn't true. He made a mistake. I just didn't feel like that could really happen to my sister. You hear about stuff all the time, and you never think it would happen to your family. So I really felt like it was a nightmare, that I was going to wake up and she was going to be there. I felt like a part of me went with her.
The pain of losing Danielle was overwhelming, and at that moment, detectives realized the investigation had only just begun. A ruthless killer was still out there. The fight for justice was far from over. They now needed to identify the killer and uncover the motive behind such a heinous act. But with every passing moment, the trail grew colder, and the killer seemed to slip further out of reach.
There was no leads. There was no evidence there. We seen right off at that time that could lead to her, and we just knew we had to find her for her family and for her kids at that point.
The investigation had now hit a dead end with no clear leads or answers. The detectives were growing frustrated, having spent days chasing leads and questioning witnesses, only to hit dead ends. Danielle's case was quickly becoming a cold trail, and time to catch the killer was running out. But then a woman came forward with a story that would turn the investigation on its head. She arrived at the station with shocking information. This woman talked about a man who had been acting strangely the night Danielle had vanished.
And this was on Friday evening?
Yeah, Friday evening. So he was
Are you
there
sure it was on
about
Friday evening?
No. Wait a second. Was it Thursday, the day the girl went missing?
Mm-hmm.
Then it was Thursday at 7. He was there about 7. He left about 9 o'clock.
Was he by himself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You remember what he was wearing?
Blue jeans and a white tank top. And then he came to my house and she had told me that he was asking her if she had like a big shirt in her car that he could put on.
Did she give him one?
No, she said that she didn't probably have one that would fit him, but she said even if it was dirty. So he said that it didn't matter. So she never gave him one.
This man had visited her apartment on the evening of Danielle's disappearance around 7 p.m. He wasn't someone she knew well, but his presence was unnerving. What struck her as odd was his request. It was unusual, but it was nothing that immediately seemed alarming. At least, not until she brought up the timing.
And that's the last thing he said. He said, if anybody asked, anybody, he said, I've been here at your house since 2 o'clock.
As she recounted her conversation with him, the red flags began to pile up. It was a detail that could not be ignored. Why would he feel the need to offer up an alibi? Was he anticipating being questioned later? The woman's statement became the missing piece of the puzzle, and as the detectives pieced together the timeline, they couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Could this man be the key to Danielle's disappearance? Was he more involved than anyone had initially suspected? And suddenly, the investigation took a dark turn. They now had a man whose actions were calculated, whose behavior was suspicious, and whose timing couldn't be ignored. The question wasn't just who he was, it was why he was so desperate to cover up his tracks. Just when they thought they knew where the case was headed, one crucial piece of evidence emerged, one that sent the case spiraling in a terrifying new direction. After the interview, the woman was about to be driven home when something she'd forgotten to mention earlier hit her. This discovery would reveal a startling truth that no one saw coming. She described throwing out blue jeans, a gray hoodie, and a white sock. The situation became more unsettling with each detail, and the mystery deepened.
And we had just turned, like, in the middle of the curve. And he's like, throw these out. And I was like, what? And, like, he just said, throw them out.
As they drove along, Sean suddenly became agitated, glancing nervously in his rearview mirror.
Okay, so it was before that, we was coming down the highway. So he looks in his rear view and he sees a cop. And it's like, it's a way distance. It wasn't bothering us. It was way back there. So he starts tripping and he's like, I gotta get off the highway. And we had just turned, like, in the middle of the curve. And he's like, throw these out. And I was like, what? And, like, he just said, throw them out.
He then handed her a bundle of clothes and told her to throw them out the window.
In a bag?
No, they was just balled up. I was just looking straight, and he was driving and just reached in between his seats. So I'm guessing I didn't see anything in the back seat. So I'm guessing they might have been under his seat, under the back seat. And I didn't even know this girl was dead. Didn't know, like, y'all hadn't even found her car yet. So I just thought, of course it was weird, but, I just threw him out. I wasn't thinking, at this time I didn't know I still don't know if he did it. But I just threw him out.
The case took a sharp turn when the detectives heard the rest of her story. She described throwing out blue jeans, a gray hoodie, and a white sock. The situation became more unsettling with each detail, and the mystery deepened. The detectives wasted no time. They immediately headed to the location she described, hoping the clothes would still be there. Upon their arrival, they found chilling evidence. The clothes were exactly where the woman had said they'd be, on the edge of the highway, discarded as if they were nothing more than trash. But this was no ordinary pile of clothing. On closer inspection, the detectives immediately knew they'd found their prime suspect. The fabric bore disturbing red stains, likely dried blood. While the tests would run on the evidence, they needed to find out more about this new character in the case. The clothes were immediately collected and sent off for forensic testing. What they'd uncover next could break the case wide open.
We were very lucky to be able to find these clothes and get them as quickly as we did once we learned of this information.
With the woman's testimony in hand and the bloodstained clothes recovered, the detectives turned their focus on the man she'd described, Sean Wakefield. Sean Wakefield wasn't just a random name. It was one that had appeared in law enforcement records before.
It was very easy to locate Sean. He'd actually been picked up the day prior on a probation violation, so he was easy to locate at the jail.
A convicted criminal, Sean had a history that raised serious red flags: burglary, theft, and possession of firearms. This wasn't his first run-in with the law. He was on probation at that time, and the timing couldn't have been more coincidental. Now, sitting in the county jail, Sean's past was about to catch up with him in a big way. The detectives knew they had to act quickly. They started gathering everything they could on him, searching for any connection that would tie him to Danielle's murder. But despite his criminal history, the detectives were cautious. They needed more than just suspicion. They needed concrete evidence to connect him directly to the crime. And that's when the blood-stained clothes became their smoking gun. With the investigation moving forward, the detectives brought Sean Wakefield in for an interview, though this time he was accompanied by his attorney. The tension in the room was palpable as the detectives began trying to establish a clear timeline for Sean's whereabouts on the day of Danielle's disappearance.
Sean, what I was going to do is I'm going to ask you to, if you would, just kind of tell me about your day yesterday and the time you woke up. About what time did you wake up yesterday morning?
10.
What'd you do when you got up?
Went outside and started the car.
Went outside and started which car?
My truck.
Which truck? truck is that?
2003 Yukon.
What color is that Yukon?
Tan.
You started it, where did you end up going?
Went to Tim's Auto Repair, right on 460, to get a quote on some brakes.
Oh, what time were you there?
I would say about 11.
Did you stop anywhere else in between your house and Tim's?
No, I didn't.
As the interview continued, Sean was able to provide specific details about his whereabouts up until around 3 p.m. But the detective couldn't ignore the glaring gaps in his timeline. The most critical missing piece, the time when Danielle was believed to have been murdered, was conspicuously absent from Sean's account.
Went back to, I came back to Tazewell. That's when I came back to Tazewell.
Did you travel 460 all the way?
Yeah, I think 460.
Keep in. Where'd you go from there?
Went to Tazewell Square.
Okay. Where'd you go up there?
Sitting up there with a friend of mine. And her and I was kicking it out in the parking lot. And then the girl that I went with.
Female friend?
Yeah, female.
You don't want to say her name? Okay. About what time would you say that was when you left out of there?
It was probably around close to 3.
While I'm questioning Sean, I'm analyzing his body movement, I'm looking at his eye movement, and I can tell immediately that he's not being truthful, that he's aloof, felt that he was being very deceptive and very dishonest the entire time.
However, as soon as the detective began questioning Sean more directly, the interview was abruptly cut off by his lawyer.
I'm sure you've heard that old adage, honesty is the best policy, right? So my question to you is, when are you going to be honest and start giving me the truth about what's going on? Because, quite honestly, you're leaving stuff out. You're leaving big gaps here.
I mean, at this point, I'm just going to let you off.
Okay.
As detectives delved deeper into Sean Wakefield's movements on the day of Danielle's murder, they had a critical tool at their disposal: his ankle monitor. Since he was on probation, Sean had been required to wear a monitor that tracked his every movement through GPS coordinates. The data became a pivotal piece of the puzzle, providing detectives with a map of his whereabouts that day. The GPS data revealed something striking. Sean's movements followed a suspicious pattern, one that included a stop at a rural construction site not far from where Danielle's body was discovered. The site raised questions. Why had Sean ventured into this isolated area seemingly with no reason to be there? Determined to investigate further, an officer was dispatched to the site to recover the surveillance footage.
What's that, man?
Morning, sir.
Pretty good. My hands are
Don't worry about it.
What happened, or can you say?
I can't really tell you much. I'm looking for a vehicle or anybody walking.
All right. Yeah, I think you're right quick.
Same old, same old.
3:17, 2 o'clock.
Hey, we appreciate it greatly. Got her done, brother.
Oh, got it done? Good.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay.
At the station, the footage was uploaded and analyzed. What the detectives saw on screen sent a chill down their spines. Danielle's vehicle was clearly visible, pulling into the construction site. Moments later, Sean's vehicle appeared, stopping nearby. Then something shocking happened. Danielle's figure came into view, followed by an abrupt jerking motion that looked like she was being pulled back. The footage went cold for a few moments before Sean's vehicle was seen driving away. However, it didn't end there. A few minutes later, Sean was seen walking back to the site on foot while Danielle's vehicle left. As detectives continued to track his movements via the GPS, they expanded their search, retrieving more surveillance footage from nearby businesses, residential cameras, and traffic cameras. After hours of painstaking review, they hit another breakthrough: a clear image of Danielle's car with Sean Wakefield behind the wheel. While the footage and GPS data were robust circumstantial evidence, the detectives knew they still needed more to secure a conviction. But with each new piece of the puzzle falling into place, the case against Sean was becoming more concrete. The question remained, was this enough to charge him, or would he slip through the cracks? When Sean was brought in for questioning again, the detectives immediately confronted him about the inconsistencies in his story. His alibi was weak, and he struggled to recall important details about his whereabouts during the crucial moments of Danielle's disappearance.
So, after you leave Castle Square, where do you go? I go home. You go straight home? Don't stop anywhere?
Sean's behavior during the interview was evasive and aloof, making it clear that he was hiding something. The detectives, aware of the evidence they'd gathered, pushed harder for the truth.
Do you know where Danielle is right now? No, I do. Did you have anything to do with her disappearance? No, I didn't. Have you put your hands on Danielle with the intent to cause bodily harm? No. Anything else you want to add? No.
Sean, however, continued to deny involvement despite mounting evidence against him. His story started to crumble, leading the detectives to doubt his credibility. The last crucial detail surfaced when forensic investigators made a critical discovery. The bloodstains found on the clothes Sean had discarded matched Danielle's DNA. This revelation hit like a thunderclap. There was no denying it now. Sean's connection to the crime was undeniable. The forensic match solidified the detectives' growing suspicions and took the case to an entirely new level.
At this point, even without Sean's confession, we were very certain that Sean is our person.
It wasn't just circumstantial evidence anymore. This was irrefutable proof that Sean had played a direct role in Danielle's tragic death. Armed with irrefutable evidence, the bloodstained clothes, the GPS data, the CCTV footage, and now the DNA match, their confidence was unshakable. They laid it all out in front of him, each piece of evidence stacking up against him. The detectives pressed him, hoping for a crack in his armor. He refused to admit his guilt, remaining tight-lipped and uncooperative. However, the detectives weren't done yet. They pushed harder, confronting him with inconsistencies in his story. They caught him in a lie when he admitted to contacting Danielle on the day she disappeared in order to score some drugs.
Had you bought drugs from Danielle before?
Yeah, previous occasions, yeah.
You know what time you called Danielle?
I called her at 3:15. I told her, buddy of mine's trying to get some. When we got up there to the area, I called her. I said, look, do you want me to come to your house? And she said, no, meet me on the next street over by the graveyard.
Now, did you actually meet her?
No, I never seen her.
Based on all the evidence, it's my opinion that everything coming out of his mouth is an outright lie.
When they pressed him further, Sean admitted calling her at 3:15 p.m. and arranging to meet, but he claimed he never actually saw her. This was a critical moment. The detectives knew about the surveillance footage that showed him in close proximity to Danielle, yet Sean remained unaware of the evidence stacked against him. As the interview ended, the detectives were certain they had him. Sean's refusal to cooperate, combined with the mounting evidence, left them with no doubt about his involvement.
So I believe that Sean acted by himself, and Danielle did meet Sean in order to sell him an 8-ball of cocaine. I believe Sean is there to rob her. He has no intentions of giving her any money. I believe Danielle is a fighter, and I believe it got to the point where the only way that Sean was going to walk away from this was that he had to kill her.
Detectives charged Sean Wakefield with the first-degree murder of Danielle Pruett. 2 years after the murder, the weight of the overwhelming evidence led the 35-year-old to plead guilty. He was sentenced to 57 years in prison. Though he never spoke about his motive, detectives believed Sean went to rob Danielle, and when she put up a struggle and fought back, he lost control and in a fit of rage ended her life. The case seemed to reach a conclusion, but just days before Sean's scheduled sentencing, a shocking turn of events occurred. In November 2019, the Tazewell County Sheriff reported Sean had passed away from an illness, though the exact cause was never publicly disclosed. The news of Sean's death sent shockwaves through the community. The closure they sought was never fully realized. Though Sean's life ended in prison, his fate did not diminish the tragedy that had befallen Danielle. While his death closed the chapter on his story, it left an open wound for those who mourned Danielle's loss.
I have a lot of hatred in my heart for him. And I hate that because that's not the type of person I am. And I hope one day I can forgive him, but I can't right now.
The tragic end to Danielle's life and the subsequent events surrounding her murder left a profound sense of loss and grief in her community. Danielle had been a beloved daughter, sister, and friend. Her sudden and brutal death had shaken those who knew her. While justice had been served through Sean's conviction, the emotional toll on her family and loved ones was immeasurable. Danielle's life had been cut short, and the promise of her future was lost. The case left behind a legacy of heartache, reminding everyone of the devastating consequences of violence and the importance of cherishing those we love.
I always knew Danielle as a best friend, as a sister, honestly. She was my back, and I was her front. Like, that's how close we were. And the saying is true, like, you never know what you got till it's gone, and I definitely know what I lost. Life's a lot different now.
I just want everyone to remember how great of a mother she was, how great of a friend. Just remember how caring and how giving and how loving she was.
Despite the efforts to find justice, the fact that Danielle was no longer there to experience life's joys was a sad reality that no verdict could change.